It's been dark way too long in this place. That bright smile long gone been replaced. From ear to ear I see that fear in your face. Tell me when the last time you felt safe, cause there's some evil people in the streets. Evil at your front door, creeping while you sleep. It's time to raise up, show that evil we ain't weak. We don't turn the other cheek, I can show you how to be strong. Come on, follow me. Heard you looking for a hero. Well, look up. No more running from the bad guy. I'ma stare him in the eye like, what's up? I know the journey got hard for a minute, but I ain't giving this up. Yeah, I got the heart of a champion. If I get knocked down, I get back up. We go through bad days, hard times, low pay, high crime, pathways to a life without sunshine. I'm the lifeline. With this life, I'm gonna be the pipeline, shining in the nighttime.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are live here, and we're going to have David joining us in just a few. He's having some technical difficulties he's trying to work through. Hope everyone is well wherever you are. Give us a comment. Let us know you're online with us and that you're here. You can hear us and see us well. Tonight's talk is going to be about emergency communications, emergency comms. And we're really excited about this one because I think it's really important for everyone to have a game plan in mind of what they're going to do to communicate in the event of emergency with friends and family members. So I've been doing a lot of research and have a lot of information and knowledge to share with you guys. So we're going to dig in just a few minutes. Let me know where you're joining us from, where you are in the world today to join us for this live stream. We are live on our YouTube and Facebook pages. If you are on our Facebook, I would ask you to head over to our YouTube. It's a better platform for us to be able to communicate with you and be able to continue the conversation, obviously, in the after party. If you're not a member of our website yet, head over to t4survival.com. It's free and easy to sign up. And when you sign up, you'll be able to join us in the after party. In the after party is where we're going to be able to talk a little bit more about these topics and be not censored by the overlords of social media. So head over to t4survival.com maybe during this live stream while you're listening and get signed up. We'll get you approved and you'll be able to join us on the after party when we finish up here on YouTube, Facebook, and X. We're going to kick David in here with us and have him join us. Let's get him in here. There we go. David, how are you?
Hey, what's going on? A little technical difficulties, but we're back.
Yeah, I told everyone that you were working through some technical stuff, but you look crystal clear.
Yeah, much better. I had to steal someone's camera.
It worked well. I'm good to see it. So everyone, thanks for joining us tonight here live, and we're going to dig in now into our goal for today is educating all of you on emergency communications and things you need to be aware of when it comes to comms. And put in the box, by the way, how many of you guys already have an emergency communications plan, whether it be ham radio, GMRS, whether it be MURS, CB, texting, sat phones, whatever it might be. Drop in the comments. Let us know what you have already or maybe what you're thinking about buying, because I'm going to be interested in knowing at the end of today's segment if your mind has changed a little bit from what you originally had thought that you wanted to purchase to what we've kind of recommended for today's live stream and information we're going to give you. David, you already have a couple of radios, right?
I do.
So tell us a little bit. What do you have?
BAOFENG. I'm probably saying it wrong. Hold on, let me grab one.
Okay.
So I've got right here, just a little
nice,
basic, small little unit.
Oh, got it.
A little too far forward.
That's all right.
I've got an extended antenna on it.
Right.
So it gives me a little bit more distance. It comes with your standard little mini antenna, but this gives me a little bit of extra reach. And then when I want to talk to Jamie, we have the super extendo. So I'll share that with everybody. So we have this guy ready. So yep, and it just keeps going.
Wow. What is that?
That's pretty massive. I don't even know. It's like a 48-inch, I think. And so,
wow,
little neat. I mean, but you think about an emergency situation. You know, we'll probably talk about it a little more. But yeah, it just folds right up, fits right into a bag.
And we're going to talk about the benefit of that as well in today's stream. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Hi to Jeff. Hi to Edward Pocock is on joining us in the garage. Nice. Hey, Good. He's going to be on with us live on Thursday. Really looking forward to that. It's going to be a great conversation. Samantha, how are you? Welcome from Maine. Liza, Dennison, good to see you online. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, everybody.
Us, put in the comments where you're from. Thank you for joining us here on this live. So today we're going to talk about emergency communications and a couple of different options for you guys to consider. Now, there's a lot of different various radio communications that are out there, and it can kind of become a little bit mind-boggling of all of the information that there is. There's a FRS, which is Family Radio Service, GMRS, MURS, amateur radio, also known as ham. Then there's CB radios. Now, we'll talk with the CB radios first. The original CBs out in the 70s, truckers and Smokey and the Bandit, High Bandit, High Smokey, and going from Texarkana County over to Florida, right? Great communication for short distances. A lot of truckers still use CB radios for communication, but once you lose line of sight, it really hampers the distance of how you can use those CB radios. And I know some people might be watching this video or come on watching the replay and putting comments that you can do skipping and atmosphere stuff and you can get long reach with a CB, but we're talking about day-to-day operations or emergency communications. So trying to put you in the right direction of where to go when it comes to emergency comms. CBs around here where we live in Maine, the North Woods, there's a lot of communication with CB radios with the local logging companies, and they monitor the CBs for the logging roads. So a CB radio, depending on your geographic location and where you are, might be a ways of communication. It's also going to be free and easy for people to access, and a lot of people probably listening on those CB radios, and we're going to dig into that in a little bit as well. The next one would be an FRS, which would be a family radio service. And those are like those radios, the Spider-Man radios that I know David loves from Walmart, where they have all the different, superheroes.
Every room has one.
Yeah, absolutely. Those little, packs with those two radios, those are usually FRS. Those are set channels. And it's, again, short distance, small wattage output for you to be able to communicate. A lot of people might use them like around an amusement park, or if you're out someplace at an outing and you're just talking to someone that is maybe on one side of the field and you're on the other. FRS could work fine. Again, it's a free option, meaning that you don't have to pay for the service. Some of the things we're going to talk about tonight, there is a licensing fee. But FRS is free. You can pick them up anywhere. Again, it's a set amount of channels. And again, I think a lot of people will be on those channels and using those radios. So that's something to consider as well. GMRS is the next one we're going to talk about. Now, GMRS is a UHF, which is ultra high frequency type radio. And it is based on channels as well, just like the FRS, but it's a different band of channels. So a GMRS radio can communicate and receive transmissions and communicate back to the people on an FRS, but the FRS communication radios can't communicate on the GMRS bands. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility. You can get also a higher wattage, which means the distance can be a little bit better on a GMRS frequency compared to a CB or a FRS. And a lot of like the FRS radios, they're just a set standard little stubby antenna. As you saw with David's, you can get a lot larger of an antenna with the GMRS, and that will allow you to be able to communicate even further. Now, there are lots of long antennas out there, and you can kind of get carried away with looking at them, but not every antenna works the same. So if you're going to decide to invest into a upgraded antenna, you want to do your research and make sure you're getting one that's going to work for the radio that you have and the frequency that you have. You wouldn't buy a amateur radio extender antenna and be able to use it on a GMRS or vice versa. You need an antenna set up for the frequency of what you're using. So it would need to be a GMRS UHF antenna that would work. And those frequencies are going to be, again, on the UHF. Here's what's important with the GMRS. The GMRS you have to pay for a fee with FCC in order to be able to operate, to click the little button on the side there, to be able to operate on that network. What that allows you, supposedly, is having a little bit smaller of a amount of people that are going to be on that bandwidth because they have to pay for the service. In a shit hits the fan type of scenario, if you are in an emergency situation, and it doesn't have to be, Armageddon, end of the world type of scenario. It could be that you've fallen down off of rocks while climbing a cliff here in Maine or out in Nevada or in Utah, and you need emergency communications. You can pick up a GMRS, you can pick up a ham radio, and you can key it, and you can get help, which we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. So in an emergency, you can use those options for communication. But the GMRS, again, is a fee. It's $35 for a licensing fee, and it gets you 10 years of coverage for your family, and it's an all immediate family members. So everyone inside of your household. It even includes, I believe, some you can get in-laws that are covered underneath that as well. So it's really a considerable good way to look at for emergency communications for your family to use now, practice with, and then have in a situation. And it doesn't have to be, again, Armageddon. It could be you've fallen somewhere and you're communicating with family that might be down at the base of the cliff. It could be a tornado that hits in your area or a wildfire, and you just have these emergency communications to be able to communicate with your family members. There's also what's called MURS. MURS is on a VHF, which is a very high frequency. So GMRS is on an ultra high frequency. MURS is on a very high frequency. And MURS has a smaller set amount of channels for you to be able to use. So it's not frequency set, it's channel set. And again, very short distance. So I would suggest to you, if you're watching this and you're part of our clients and followers, to make sure that you're looking toward the GMRS units or the amateur radio, which we're going to dig into just a little bit more. Hi, Carlene. Great to see you online. Thanks for joining us. Jennifer, great to see you. And Evan, Evan has bought a couple of different comm options. Not sure what they are, though. Good. Well, we'll dig into it a little bit now. Maybe that will help. And just received 2 comms from Amazon tonight. Awesome. Good job, Carlene. That's great. Hopefully this helps out a little bit with what we're discussing tonight.
Yeah, the instructions are definitely a little confusing for sure.
Oh, on the
you can get books. You can get books on them too.
Yeah,
they have a book for the. I think probably download it or get it for free.
Then there's amateur radio. Amateur radio is interesting because with the GMRS, you can get a license for a family or you can get license for a business. With amateur radio, ham radio, you're not supposed to use it for business communications. It's supposed to be used for, amateur communications and communicating that way. So that's something to keep in mind. You have to take a test to pass to be able to get your amateur radio license. And so there's a good amount of studying to get the first level, which is your technician level, but it opens up a huge world for you of communication options. I've already started looking into doing the test for myself, and we'll be continuing to apply for a ham radio license and take the test. I think it's a great thing to have, but again, there's some time that's going to be consumed in your life to be able to get that done. Whereas with the GMRS, there isn't any time. You just go to the FCC website, fill out some information, submit, and then usually within 24, 48, or 72 hours, you're going to get a response back with your radio handle, and you are ready to rock and roll. The good thing about the amateur radio, the ham radio, is the amount of bandwidth that you can get. So it's set by frequency, not channels. So you're going to type in a certain frequency, and there's sub-frequencies that you can use to be able to communicate on ham radio. You can also, with the GMRS and the amateur radio, you can get higher antennas that you could put outside of your home. So you could set up a base camp station inside of your home with a big antenna outside that might fly 15, 20 feet in the air. That might be able to hit some repeaters and work on communications that way. Then you have smaller handhelds that would be out and about either on your property or in the general vicinity of your area. And we'll talk about distance in a second, that you would use to communicate back with the base station. With an amateur radio, same thing. You can go from very small wattage to very high wattage and transmit a lot further. The bigger antennas and a lot more repeaters, depending on your geographic location, that might be available to communicate on a ham or amateur radio band. Again, you need to take the test. You need to pay the fees, and or you're not going to be able to hit that button on the side of the radio unless it's an emergency type of situation. As we're going through this, by the way, please drop a comment, any questions you guys might have as I'm going through this, and I'll be glad to answer them while we're live. If you like this content, by the way, hit that like button. It helps us with the algorithm here on YouTube and getting our channel out there and in front of more eyes and people. So there's a couple different radios that I've done some exploring on that I personally think is a great way to go when it comes to this type of communication. And we're going to be focusing strictly on the GMRS and on the amateur ham radio segment. So let me bring that up on the screen here. So this right here is one of the radio options, which this is a ham radio option. This does 8 watts of communication in a handheld, which is phenomenal to be able to broadcast through further distances. This is also in the description on YouTube for you to be able to order these and be able to take advantage of what we're recommending for today. So what you're looking at here is the BF F8HP, and this here is the newest model of a ham radio from this company. Their old model, which is still sold and it's less expensive, is a UV-5R, which a lot of people have. I think it was rated one of the most successfully sold handheld radios in the world, was the UV-5R ham radio. That radio right there will work again ham. And you need an amateur license and be able to key out into the side there. But that is a great option for you guys to look into. And I'm going to bring up a different one here and talk a little bit more about GMRS. I'll bring this up in a second. But GMRS, I'm getting both. And I've already got the F8HP, which is what I just had up on the screen. I've also have the GMRS model, which you're going to see in a second. I just ordered another model, which I really want to tell you about. I'm excited about this. The one that I have is the UV5G. The 5G, the G is what signifies GMRS, and the other model I told you was ham. So let's talk about GSMR. Sorry, GSMR, GMRS. Strictly nothing else right now. Let's not talk about ham. With the GMRS radios, the communication between you and someone else, depending on the size of the antenna, will be line of sight. Now, I've had a few people test this around here, and they were able to get 3 to 5 miles with a 15-inch whip antenna on it, but both of them were kind of on a higher peak, on a hill, so that was able to communicate back and forth. If you got a bigger antenna, you might be able to push a little bit further. It also depends if you have repeaters in your area. And it's an easy Google search of just typing in GMRS repeaters and your geographic area, and it should give you a list of what you might have for repeaters, and that will tell you if you can bounce off those repeaters. And what a repeater basically does is if you're hitting that repeater, it's going to hit the repeater first and then shoot to wherever else out to the other side of where that repeater is, and hopefully get you longer distance. Now, I've heard the repeaters being able to get you 10 miles, 15 miles, again, depending on your antenna and where you're located. And then there's multiple different types of repeaters. And David and I were just talking earlier that in his area, a GMRS might be harder for him to get communications out because GMRS might be used by the local hotels, by the convention center, by a lot of businesses that are in his area. So that could take up some of the channels that he might have availability in. But for someone like me, or if you live in more of a rural area, it may not be used as much, and it might be a better way for you to have communications in a bad situation. See, Mike was just saying, without obstructions, ridgeline to ridgeline, he was able to get 3 miles with the stock antenna on the UV5R. And oh, good, Dennis. And have you used it? Have you been able to check your distance? He has the UV 82 HP. It's a lot like the 5R. I'm curious what you were able to get for distance on that radio if you were able to test it out. We'll see if we can reach from your house to mine over here on Moosehead. So that's with the GMRS. Now, here's what I want to bring up on the screen. Let me get this ready over here. All right. So check this out. This here is the B-Tech, and it is a GMRS-PRO is the model number. Now, this is interesting. This is what I just ordered. I'm hoping that it gets here within the next week, and I'll bring it on a live stream to show you guys. This unit right here has a built-in compass, has a built-in mapping system. It connects to your phone. Now, in a shit hits the fan scenario, if you don't have cell service, your phone may still work and it can still connect to this. But here's what the interesting thing I found with this phone is that if you have someone else with this same model phone, the GMRS-PRO, and you have it connected to your phone and they have it connected to their phone, you can send text data messages back and forth through the GMRS network, and you don't have to key the device, which if you're worried about having your location found out or where you might be, or trying to be a little bit more silent and wherever you are and you can't key up your radio, this is a good way for you to be able to communicate from device to device. So this really intrigued me. I did some research on it, looked at some different reviews on this device, and so far so good. So I ordered one. It's $150 compared to the usual anywhere from $50 to $70 for the other ones we already discussed. But I really like having that messaging capability in this unit. The other thing that I found intriguing is that one of these units can be set up as a repeater. So you can get a third unit set up as a repeater for the two other units to be able to communicate to it and be able to stay in communication at a further distance. You can also buy a repeater for your home that you can just plug in, and they're anywhere from, I've seen them from $150 to $300-$400 that you can connect at your home. That will also extend the range of these radios, a GMRS radio, or if you get into the ham, there's different options there. Again, we're talking just about GMRS. So I recommend this in the description on YouTube. You'll find the links to all of these radios for you to be able to check out on your own and be able to make a decision of which way you want to go. I, again, have the GMRS. I have the 5G Plus. The 5G Plus, by the way, if you go on YouTube and you type in unlock the UV 5G Plus, there's a sequence that you can do on the radio that will unlock more channels and frequencies on that unit. So that's something to keep in mind. They might figure out soon about that being out there and might lock it down. So if you have the radio already, Google that. Go on YouTube, you'll figure out how to unlock it. It's really easy, and that will give you access to both receive and transmit on more channels unlocked on that unit. The GMRS-PRO, which is what you're looking at right now, is the one that I have ordered, and really was intrigued by that because of the mapping system, location dropping. So let's say that I'm at a location, I can send a message to the other unit through that GMRS network with my location, and will be dropped onto their device so they'll know where we are located without having to key up the radio. I thought that was pretty cool. Interested what you guys think of that radio. If you know someone that has it, if you know of that capability with messaging, Edward, if you're still on and you have an idea of whether that messaging would work or have heard anything about it, I'd be interested in knowing your feedback, or we can even talk about it more on Thursday when you join us for your live stream. Dennison says, in good conditions, you've done 5 miles, but 3 miles is reliable on that unit. So that's pretty. And was that both of you on a higher peak line of sight, or was there obstructions between you guys, like trees and forest and so forth? I'd be interested in knowing how that test was done. And again, if any of you guys have any experience with this GMRS-PRO and using data and text through the network of the GMRS, I'd be interested in knowing what you have experienced or what you have have heard about those units. What do you think, David?
Whole lot of information, man.
Yeah.
You definitely packed it out. So on that radio, the last one that you're speaking about,
Yeah.
I know it keys in with the cell phone. Does it run off the cell phone? Does it just tie
No.
together with the cell phone?
And what's interesting is when you set and pair this up, it tells you not to pair up using the Bluetooth setting inside of your cell phone. Instead, you download the app. Once you download the app, a good question, and Edward brought this to my attention about handshakes. I don't know if it needs a handshake for the app to work into the unit. From what I understand, it doesn't, because it's expecting you to be in a location where you don't have cell service when you're using this. But that's something I'm going to have to test in the real world to see if it does need a handshake to be able to operate. But I thought it was really cool, the communication back and forth. So it communicates in the app. When you connect it, it will ask you to connect to your device. It will not use the Bluetooth setting and connection in your settings in your iPhone or your Android device.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go first.
No, I was going to say some other options. Those are all fantastic options. I think we've all one of the two, right? There's also, another one we talked about was the one that has the 3G, 4G built into them.
Yeah. So I looked at some of the cell. You're talking about just like the InReach, like the connectivity one?
Well, I mean, there's just one. I'm just trying to see. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out the name of it. This Ryage. It's 100-mile distance. Talking.
So
they're just interesting.
There's that
but
rapid
again,
radios and the other stuff that we were talking about like a week or two ago, right?
Yeah.
So there's these companies that offer data communication where basically David could be in California, I can be here, push to talk, and we're communicating back and forth. When I did some more research on them, I found out that they work on the cellular network. And I want to be prepared if things are shot down, not working, the cell networks are down. And even if they're not down, you have a limited amount of time before the backups on those cell towers are going to take you offline anyway. Yeah. And being able to communicate. So they were like a $300 or $400 investment for some of those radios, David. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe 2 packs for like $400. But
yeah.
I mean, it's definitely something to watch out for, right?
No, I think it's phenomenal in this type of situation. Where there's where you're able to communicate. Grid is fine. Internet, well, we think it's fine. There's a lot of stuff going on right now in the world, but being able to communicate now, I think would be great. But I think if things went sideways, I wouldn't want to be reliant on them. Now, when the AT&T outage did go down, Rapid, which is one of those carriers, said that they were not affected by it, which was interesting. But I still want to think that if they were taken completely offline or the cell networks were completely taken offline, what would happen? Yeah. Which brings me to my next option, which is a sat phone or satellite device. And again, Edward, what an amazing amount of knowledge he has. We talked about having an emergency sat phone or sat data communication like an InReach. There's a Garmin InReach, which you'll find also in the link in the YouTube description. The InReach is a little box, almost like a little pager that back in the 90s. And that basically sends data up through a satellite to be able to communicate via text. The unit itself, anywhere from $150 to $300 or $400, depending on the unit you look at. And then there's a data feed anywhere from $20 to $40, $50 a month. You can get away with the $20 that would allow you to send out text messages in the event something happens. Now, the InReach is used for people that hike in the wilderness that don't have cell connectivity in the event of emergency. So that's assuming that the person on the other end is connected to their cell network, because what's going to happen is you send an emergency text message in the InReach sends it up to the satellite. That's going to take a little bit of time for it to reach there. That satellite's going to send it back down here to Earth, going to send it into a switching system, into the internet, into phone lines, over to the cell network, then over to the person that's supposed to be receiving it. So there's a lot of stepping points of whether that's going to work or not. And if the person on the other end doesn't have cell coverage or cell connectivity, or the cell networks have been hacked, it's not going to work. And Edward brought up an interesting point when we talked about the switches. If things are hacked and the grids are down, or the internet is being hacked for data connectivity, those switches are a weak way to be able to take things out of communication. So if those switches are down, there's no communication anyway. So
Yeah,
you're spending all this money for
screwed.
emergency communication of having that InReach be able to send out the message, which again, if everything is working fine, could work. But I'm thinking about things going sideways, and cellular networks are not working. We're under the assumption right now there is no cell phone coverage. You can't get any cell messages out. Texting are not going out. So this is other ways to be able to communicate, which would be the same for a sat phone. So a sat phone, you're going to be able to make the call. Call goes up to a cell tower, bounces back down, goes through switches. That call is going to a person on a cell phone. It may not go through because the cell is down, or it's not going to go through. If the cell is going from the sat phone is going from a sat phone to their satellite to another sat phone, I'm wondering if it still goes through a switch. I don't have the answer to that. Edward, if you know the answer to that, let me know, or Mike, or someone else online. Can you go sat phone to sat phone through the satellite and avoid any switches to communicate? That would be a good, interesting thing to figure out. And I'll have the answer for that on Thursday on our next live stream with Edward, if I don't have an answer for you tonight. So let's see, Bloody and Things was listening. It's all about the switches. So Edward, does that mean that if you have a sat phone and the person on the other end has a sat phone, it still has to go through a switch? It doesn't go from sat phone to satellite to sat phone. There's still switches involved. So if the cell towers are taken out and the switches aren't working, it's not going to work. Is that correct? Let me know your thoughts on that. I appreciate it. So
And then what happens when the satellites are taken out?
Well,
then you get no comms with it whatsoever. So.
And we were talking about EMP being detonated in high ends of the atmosphere. And that's going to radiate not only here, but also into space as well. So everything comes back to Earth. And he says, and the satellites may not even survive an EMP, right?
Right, because of the bounce back. Yeah.
So a lot of people are spending a shitload of money on satellite sat phones that probably aren't going to even work in this type of scenario. I think the sat phones are good if you're traveling in the wilderness, you're traveling somewhere, and you're worried about having any cell phone connectivity, but you know that the world is fine, and there's not going to be any
more
issue
of an
on the other
everyday
end.
kind of scenario versus
like I know a lot of the guys up here that fly the float planes, the seaplanes, they'll have a sat phone in case they go down somewhere, so that they have communications, to get emergency help and so forth, which is fine, again, in a scenario where everything is working properly. But I want to think about a EMP type of event, or grid being taken out, or internet and connectivity being hacked, and different ways to communicate. So it's going to be, I think the rule of thumb here is shorter range, having people in your community and your family members to be able to communicate with, and having a game plan of which devices you're going to use. I suggest having a ham radio device. I also suggest having a GMRS device. And I told you the ones that I personally am having for my family, which is going to be a couple of the 5G pluses and the GMRS-PRO. I only ordered one of those, but I have a feeling I'm going to be ordering at least one or two more. Because what I'd like to try maybe at camp time is being able to try to do comms with one of these used as a repeater from our shooting range over to maybe to where the resort is, and bouncing signal around and see how well that works. The problem with the repeater, it has to be, I believe, don't hold me to this, but from what I saw so far, the repeater will only work in the mode if it's another GMRS-PRO that's connecting to it as a repeater, not just a regular GMRS radio. But I'm going to find that out, and that's what I want to test before spending $150 on 3 or 4 of them and then not working that way. But I think that's a great way to go. The other thing that's great about these BTEC radios is that the connections in them will allow you to be hooked up through communications into your headset. So they have Bluetooth headsets. I don't suggest using Bluetooth because it can fail on you. I think hardwire is the way to go. Excuse me. I know a lot of people like the AirPods and the wireless connectivity. I'm gonna take a little drink here. But I think the best way to go is going wired, and there's wired comms that will go into like our Walker headsets that we already use on the range. We can go in from these radios, the GMSR radios, through into our Walker and be able to use those both on the range and at further distance. So I want to test that out as well while we're here. These also have some communications cords that you can order to program them. The GMRS-PRO, you can do firmware updates right through the app. You can also program it into all your favorite channels and sequences in the app as well, which is pretty fantastic. With the 5G Plus, there is also an app that you can look up on the iPhone store. I didn't look at Android that you could download that will help program that, or you can use a programming cord. There's actually a programming cord that will go from the UV5G into your cell phone, into your iPhone, and then use the app to be able to program. So that's pretty cool as well. So I guess I'm telling everyone that you want to start looking at more localized communications. If you have a ham radio license, and you know how to operate those frequencies, and that's really what the test is all about, and the studying is being able to learn how to operate on all the bands and the frequencies to be able to get communications. I personally am, like I said, I'm doing the studying. I'm going to take the test, and I'm going to get my ham radio license, and I'm going to hopefully set up some comms with some of the guys back in Connecticut, David and Mike, and be able to do some tests in the near future and looking at being able to communicate that way. I also want to say that that takes time, and I think time is critical right now with everything that's going on. We saw Russia and what happened in Moscow a few days ago. Today with this, with the cargo ship in Maryland and what happened, it's very concerning. And I think there's going to be a lot more events that are happening. You've heard me talk in the past about Black Swan events. Black Swan event is basically an event that happens that no one planned was going to happen. That happened, like 9/11 was a Black Swan event. I think there's going to be something coming, and we need to be prepared for it. And the best thing to do is get these radios, get your emergency contingency plans in place, make sure your family has that conversation of exactly what their expectations are and what to do in the event of emergency, so that you feel better and more calm about when things do happen, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Is my philosophy on this. Yeah. So, good. Dennison's getting his ham license as well. Hey, Dusty, thanks for joining us. He's been in and out. Awesome. I'm glad you jumped online. But having a game plan in mind. And here's an interesting story. I was listening to a podcast, and there was on 9/11 at JP Morgan. There's a guy named Rick who was in charge of security. He's a vet. And one thing that he was very into was getting trained and being prepared for an event of emergency. And he would train with his staff. He would train drills with the whole company of what to do in an event of emergency. Well, 9/11 hit, and Rick was able to get all 2,700 employees out of the World Trade Center and to safety and save them all because he had planned and he had prepared for an event that might happen. Did he plan on 9/11 happening? No, but he was there when the bomb went off inside of the parking garage years prior, and thought he should have a plan in place in case something else happens. And because he did, and he practiced with the staff, when the event happened, they when they were telling everyone to stay in place, lock down the building, they didn't. They had a plan. They executed that plan and started getting people out of there, and they were calm. They were more cool and collected because they had trained on what to do, and they all got out. Rick, unfortunately, did not survive, but all the 2,700 employees did, and that's because of his bravery and because of him having a plan in mind. So I cannot express to everyone enough how important it is to have a plan with your family members and your close friends or people in your inner circle that you want to communicate in the event of emergency.
Yeah, nothing more important than if you're going to get, comms, start getting them now, practice, set them up,
Yeah.
Because when things get hairy and you're scrambling, your stress levels are through the roof, you're not going to be able to operate these things. You're not going to know how to program them, set them up. It's just
Right.
not going to happen.
And what most people want to do when they are trying to figure out how to use something is what, go to YouTube or go to the internet.
That's
Well,
going to be down.
yeah, you're not going to have that option
Yeah.
at that point to be able to try to figure things out. So
Yeah.
figure those things out now. Do some tests on
And
them, communicate with people.
I think it's great to be able to hook these up to a computer or your cell phone, but you need to know how to manually change your channels, program
Right.
them. So learn every way that you can to make yourself the most successful and that you can when, God forbid, we have to deal with something like this.
Absolutely. Guys, in a couple minutes, we're going to be heading over to the after party on t4survival.com. If you haven't signed up there yet and you're just joining us, please head over there and sign up. It's free and it's easy, and it will give you access to our after party. We'll be able to discuss what we just discussed, but a little bit more in detail and uncensored without the overlords of social media watching over us and telling us what we can and can't say. So please, if you haven't already signed up, head over to the website now, click on the Become a Member image, and we'll get you approved and get you to join us over there on the after party. For those of you who have been joining us on the after parties already, we have a new way that we're working the live in the back end of the website, and you'll be able to use the chat box if you're on a mobile device now, which we're very happy about. Last live stream, we used the new platform. It worked well, so we're going to use it again tonight. So head over there, check it out. Whether you're on a mobile device, desktop, or laptop, you should be able to communicate with us and be able to put things in the chat. It's going to be set up basically like we see right here, and you'll be able to have that chat box in and be able to talk with us there. What is your opinion on Faraday cages for comms? I think it's very important to have a Faraday bag that you would order.
Got mine right here.
There we are.
That's where I keep mine in. Yeah.
And there's some links also in the description on YouTube of some bags that I recommend. And what I've been researching, and we talked about this, David, was a Faraday Backpack. So I constantly have my laptop with me. I travel with it everywhere. I go out of town, it's with me. If I'm back and forth between the office and the house, it's with me. And I'm going to order this Faraday Backpack. It's pricey. It's $300. But I'm going to put the emergency communications radios in there. I'm going to put other devices in there. And basically, if I'm already traveling and I'm out and about, it's already going to be with me and traveling with me. So, yes, Faraday bags, don't get into this. There's like cloths and covers and stuff that they say you can buy that work. Don't get a good quality Faraday bag. They're in the links in our YouTube. Yeah, that seals up completely. And you can even test it. You can take like your cell phone and put it inside of the bag and then put it somewhere and see if you're able to get communication back and forth between the cell phone and see if the signal is completely taken away. Because that's what you need. You need no signal, no communication whatsoever. Which also brings me to private conversations. I know back in the day, you used to be able to take your battery out of your cell phone and have a conversation, and know as you thought private, but that has since long gone away. So if you want to have a private conversation with someone, you take all of your devices and put them somewhere. Let's say you're in your home. How many of you online right now have an Alexa device in your house or have Blink Security or Ring Security? It's constantly listening to you. So you would need to get completely out of your home, leave your devices not turned off, not airplane mode. It can still listen to you. They can still hear you. And put those devices somewhere, go out in the middle of your yard where there's nothing around you and listening to your conversation, have that private conversation. Your other option, if you're out and about somewhere like on the gun range, you want to have a private conversation, take all your devices, put it in a Faraday bag, zip it up, and then have your conversation that way to be able to keep your conversation a little bit more secure.
And just because you go outside, don't forget you guys have cameras all around your houses. So somewhere where it's secluded.
Standing on your deck when you have a camera out there,
that doesn't do any good.
Yeah. And you know, all of our grid system, all of our cell phones are all these chips and everything, sensors are made where? In China. Yeah. And
you know, it's funny, not to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
We just spoke about this about a week and a half ago. The vacuum.
Yes. Yeah.
I forget what the vacuum it was. It's
where it connects to your Wi-Fi.
It dials in.
Yep.
Yeah, it just connects to your Wi-Fi and it just listens into your home. Like what's going on? It's crazy stuff. Watch where you're buying stuff from and what you're using.
Well, people love that connectivity. They're like, oh, check this out. My vacuum can tell me when
know.
I need to change it, and I can
Technology is a
change the
horrible
settings
thing.
on the vacuum through this app, and it's connecting to your Wi-Fi.
Talk to my Alexa. My Alexa talks to the vacuum. The vacuum talks to China. There you go.
It does, and it constantly communicates.
Yeah.
And even if it's unplugged, it can still communicate. It can still get data. It still can see when you're home, when you're moving around your home, what you're doing inside of your home. All these smart TVs, right? Roku, YouTube TV, Fire TV, all of that stuff. When's the TV on? What channels are you watching? Are you moving around inside of your house? Echo Bee, which is those electronic thermostats, right? It has a home mode and away mode. It tells when there's movement inside the home, and it sets your temperature to a certain amount. If it senses there's no movement in that room, it will drop the thermostat down or keep it at a different sensor level, right? A preset level. So all of those things are communicating. So Samantha, you asked about Faraday bags and cages. Absolutely good investment, but make sure you get the right one. Make sure you get a quality one and absolutely use them. And you can't put the stuff in there when an event happens, and you don't know when an event is going to happen. So what you need to do is have some extra radios, have some extra devices that you place inside that Faraday bag, and you leave it somewhere and you don't touch it and you don't open it. The other thing to keep in mind, Samantha, I don't know if you've listened to our other past live streams, is that if you are in an event like an EMP event from a solar flare, or if an EMP is detonated over you and there's no comms, is that you have to wait a minimum of 24 to 48 hours before you open up that Faraday bag, because the atmosphere still has all of that from the EMP that was set and detonated, and it's going to fry your stuff. So make sure that you do not deploy or take anything out of that Faraday bag for 24, 48 hours, which is going to seem like a month or two in that time frame, because you want to communicate with people and figure out what's going on, which is part of the game plan with your family members, of having a plan, because the kids are going to want to run and grab that Faraday bag, open it up to be able to communicate with mom or dad who may not be home yet, and they can't because it's going to ruin those devices. You have to be able to tell them, all right, if things happen and we're not home, just stay home, lock up the doors, and wait for us to arrive. You might be walking home. You might be catching a ride from someone else. We don't know. So it might be hours. It might be a day before you arrive finally at home. And the kids need to be able to hold the fort down and understand that you're coming home, and they need to wait for you and not to go and leave looking for you. If you have a bug out location, make sure they know where that is and when to go there. So mom and dad should be home within 3 days. If we're not within 3 days, that's when you go to the bug out location. All those conversations need to happen, because kids, teenagers, preteens, they're all going to be freaking out. And they're going to be thinking that they have the best idea of what to do. How many of you have a teenager? They all know exactly what they should be doing and when and how. So having a game plan ahead of time and what you expect of them is going to be very important, and wording it that way, because they're going to think they have a better plan. But what you have to tell them is, this is our family plan. Do not deviate from this to something else you think might be better. This is what we have to stick to, because that's what I'm depending on. That's what your mother's depending on. It's what your brother and your sister and other family members and our close friends are depending on, is this game plan. So please don't deter from it. Stay on this game plan and have it written down, maybe have it laminated, so everyone knows exactly what to do and when. Yeah, Ed says we got a lot to talk about on Thursday. Absolutely. I'm hoping, Ed, you're probably taking notes and coming up with the stuff for us to go over. But yeah, we're going to dig into this a lot, and Edward is a phenomenal source of knowledge here, and I just cannot wait for him to be on with us on Thursday and talk about this awesome book right here, which, man, reading this book and looking at the news, I'm like, holy beep. Like,
I think we need Ed to pick our lottery tickets for us. That would be nice.
You know, in the past, it's kind of like, things have happened in the past where I've said things in the training that I've had, and then things have happened and people message me and saying, oh my God, you said such and such was going to happen, and it did. And, it's like, you don't want to be right. You're like, you don't want to predict these type of things.
Nope.
But there's just too much information out there right now that is, read the intelligence. Look what's out there. And a lot of people will think you're being paranoid and you're being a fear monger. No, There's too much information out there. There's too much stuff that you can read in plain sight that is telling you need to pay attention, ladies and gentlemen. You need to get prepared, and you need to be able to put these plans in place
100%.
at a moment's notice. So do not wait. Do not wait. Start working on things now. Hey, Samantha, thank you. She says, good info, guys. Thanks. Hit that like button, by the way, if you're on with us. Help us with the algorithm, get information out there. We're going to head over to the after party on the back end of the website. Again, if you haven't signed up there, head over to T4survival.com. That's T4survival.com. Sign up. It's free and it's easy, and we'll get you approved and be able to join us in the after party, which you're heading over to right now. If you guys have any other questions, you got about 30 seconds to drop them in. David, anything else you want to add in before we head over?
No, I just want to reiterate the planning. Get the planning in place, because when something really bad happens, it's way, way too late. So plan with your family, get your family safe, get them, and get the comms all squared away now. Get your Faraday bags. Yeah. I was going to say, for the Faraday bags, what I might suggest is go to Amazon, order a couple different kinds and test them. You can always send them right back. They don't work. But that's a good way to try them before you buy them.
The ones that I have in the description on YouTube are ones that I've already tested and know.
What's the name on them?
Well, I don't have it up here in front of me, but let me see if I can bring it up quickly before we go. You know what? I'll bring it up in the after party.
Oh, that's fine.
I'll bring what the brands are up in the after party so that you guys can know exactly what they are, and you can also find the links in the description on YouTube. Barbara, you're welcome. Great to see you online. Edward, looking forward to having you on Thursday.
Absolutely.
And we're heading over to the after party now. We're going to sign off. If you guys are already over there, you can head over early, by the way. You don't have to wait for us to go over to the after party, so you could sign off here, head over there, get signed in, and we'll see you over there in just a few minutes. So on behalf of myself and David, thanks for joining us here at Training for Survival. We'll look forward to seeing you back here Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, with Edward Pocock III, talking about his book, American Calamity, and dropping some knowledge on us of some things you need to be aware of and know. Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to miss it, guys. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you back here on Thursday. Signing off for now.
Good night, everyone.
See you on the back party, on the after party, on the back of the website.